Good evening, everybody. I see a few people already dropped their locations in chat. Good evening to everyone. What's going on? We're going to start this in about 2 minutes. Feel free to send out the link. Drop in the chat where you guys are tuning in from. I'll say hi to everybody in just a moment, but we will start right at 10:05. Alright, good evening. Let's get everything switched over here. How's everybody doing? Let's get YouTube off. Alright, what's going on, family? Let's see who we got in the chat first and foremost. Good evening. I hope you guys all had a great weekend. Most people's weekend not over yet. We do a Memorial Day coming up tomorrow. So if you are enjoying the extended weekend, I hope you guys are putting in the time to study. I wouldn't do too much active trading this week. We'll get into all that with the holiday. Let's see what we got in the chat. We got Cody from Chicago. What's going on, Cody? We got Jim, SoCal, upstate New York. We got Michael Batman on the call. What's going on? Rihanna, Yuma. What's going on? Kim out in Brooklyn. Shout out to you, Kim. Who else we got? TJ from Cincinnati. Shout out to all the subs in the chat. Let's see, we finally getting some bullish volume on Bitcoin. Ooh, he jumping right in, letting us know he long on Bitcoin. We'll definitely check that out, bro. I know we back above 29, so I know you in profits. We got Antonio from North Carolina. Shout out to you. We got my boy Alex in the chat from Raleigh. What's going on, brother? Good to see you tonight. Jamie from Cypress, Texas. Man, I miss Texas. Shout out to Cypress. I might have even met Jamie out in Cyprus, to be honest. Alright. So, family, we got a lot to talk about this week. I mean, my week's going great. You could probably tell if you guys were here last week. First off, let's do a roll call real quick. Drop some ones in the chat if you guys were here last Sunday. Drop some twos if you're brand new to the stream. Just drop that for me real quick. Let me know who was here last Sunday, because I'm excited. I want to talk a lot about what happened last week. Let's see who we got. We got a few people. Where am I? I'm in South Carolina right now, so I'm a little bit outside of Myrtle Beach. So you're within like 4 hours. Alright, we got a bunch of ones in the chat. So if you guys were on Sunday's call last week, you know we're very excited this week. You know the type of week we had last week. Although, again, we talked about it Wednesday, a little rough to begin with, but we ended the week very, very, very strong. So I do want to go over Nasdaq. I think we're gonna save Nasdaq for the end. I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna look at some of the news for the week first, right? Before we jump into all the super cool stuff that kind of went on. Let's pause this music too. Let's pause this music. Let's just look at the news for the week, right? I want to kind of set up what we're looking for going into this week. You know, we will talk about what happened last week. So that's all going to, you know, run into my bias for the rest of this week. But let's just take a look at the news. I thought I had this up already, so let's just jump to the economic calendar here. I thought I had this up. Let's take a look at this week, and let's just filter the news. Again, I'm only really looking at high impact news. There's going to be a lot of data this week. I'm only really interested in the higher impact stuff. So again, we do have Memorial Day tomorrow, so New York markets are going to be a little quiet, but you do have things like the Leader Summit out in the Eurozone, so you know, you might have some activity in some markets, and you know, U.S. pairs might react if there are things like EU, GU. Other things might follow suit, but generally speaking, we are expecting kind of a slower day. Kyle in the chat, what's going on, Kyle? Good to see you, brother. I'm gonna have to make you a mod after this session, but shout out to you, bro. So Tuesday, looking at what we have German unemployment change. Again, if you're trading EU pairs, this is going to be pretty important for you. I'm not trading EU pairs this week, so for me this is kind of off the table. But you have unemployment changes, you have CPI, this Leader Summit continuing. So a lot of news out of the Eurozone this week. Those pairs might actually be ripe for a few things kind of going on. There might be a lot of liquidity captured this week based off some of this news. So maybe take a look at it, but generally I'm not trading cross currencies right now, or any sort of currencies for that matter. Let's see what else we have. GDP out of Australia. This is also Tuesday into Asian session, so you want to keep an eye on that. We have President Lagarde speaking on Wednesday. I can't imagine this is going to bring much more volatility than just the summit itself. He's probably just going to reiterate. Non-farm employment change. So for my NFP traders, as everybody knows, we actually are starting a new month, right? So June 1st is going to be the new month. And we do have NFP coming up this week. So how many people are planning on trading NFP? Do I have any NFP traders on the call? Anybody like their fundamentals? Who's trading Friday? If you're trading Friday, here's a little tip. You might want to pay attention to this number here. This is an unofficial number, to be fair. But what you're looking for, you're not really looking for this to be super accurate. You're more or less just kind of looking to see if there's any sort of drastic change between the forecast and what actually comes out here. If there's a drastic change here and the official data follows, you can get nice little spikes in the market. I, however, and a lot of my students, a lot of people from the inner circle, from the academy, probably are not going to be trading NFP. You guys know NFP for me on Friday, right? It comes out 8:30 in the morning. This is a day off for me. I'm done. I'm sleeping in. I'm not waking up early for this. I'm out of the market, or at least done making my adjustments by Thursday. I'm not doing anything Friday. Maybe if something looks really good and like a really long-term zone hits, we might entertain something after 8:30, but we're not generally waking up just for that. That being said, that's like really the only big news we have this week. It's going to be that Friday NFP release, and then that Wednesday ADP. We also have PMI. Yeah, PMI and crude oil inventories, which is every week anyway. So not much on the docket. It's pretty much just NFP week. Again, we're going to be done early week, so the big thing that we're looking at is opportunities on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, right? I'm looking to get into something early, exiting early week, and that's that, right? So knowing this and knowing my fundamental schedule, it's going to be pretty easy. I'm probably going to be looking for like entries on Tuesday, looking to see if I can get some sort of intra-week move into Thursday. Now, if you guys come back to the charts, right, we kind of look at some of the stuff we're already in, because we were actively trading last week, And to be quite honest with you guys, I have no reason to do anything this week. A lot of people in my chat know, if you guys were here last Sunday, you guys know we were bullish Nasdaq all week. I'm gonna do a quick recap, but if you really want to see like the full breakdown of why we took these entries, because everything we're looking at now is hindsight, right? So me showing you everything is hindsight. But there are people that actually experienced, entering these moves live in the moment. And if you go back to last Sunday, me breaking it down before any of this price action is here, you'll get that better understanding. And it's not just like, okay, well, he's just saying this. No, it's like we actually executed off this logic, and we are holding these entries. I have these are in my MT4. If anybody in the chat is holding NASDAQ, right, from either of these levels, if you're in the inner circle, right, just write in the chat. You don't have to drop your entry. Don't do anything crazy like that. You can if you want to, but just let me know if you're still in this, because people should have been partialed out, but you should still be in this trade. So let's kind of break this down, right? On a very basic level, we were looking at these broken lows, which happened what is now 2 trading weeks ago, right? Broke these lows, created what we call a spring, came back up, and then if you watch Wednesday's video, we took a few entries on these pullbacks, and we were looking all week long to get into buys, right? And our entire bias was off what we call a type 1 accumulation, right? We're not going to go deep into the accumulation. I'll make a video on that separately, because it's going to be like I can go into like a 30-45 minute rant, and I did last Sunday about this range and why this low was what we call a protected low. It was going to hold. It was just a matter of getting in your buys, and then we were going to look for a sweep of the 4-hour range. And that's what we traded all week long, right? Basically, we had our setup. We had all the reasons why we would look into swing something intra-week, and we began to scale into those. And as you can see, I mean, this thing, ever since that cycle completed on the lower time frames, has been kind of crazy. Again, from our Wednesday video, we already kind of discussed why we took these entries, how we kind of manage that. At this point, we're holding both entries here. This is paying out as, what is this paying out as? This is a 1 to 26. They're both about 1 to 25. One is like 1 to 26. Yeah, one's 1 to 26. So they're both 1 to 26 trades, meaning that if you did risk 1% on it, which is not what I would normally risk on these setups, I risk like 0.5%. So for me, I mean, because they're both up 1 to 26, you could just do the math. Like, this is 0.5%, this is 0.5%, so it's 1% risk, 26%. So you're looking at like a 26% gain. Now that's not the reality, because the reality is this position here, I scaled some out on Friday's close. So scaled some out here, half that position is gone, right? So some of this profit's not there. But yeah, these things absolutely smacked. Absolutely smacked. Kim's still in. Cody's holding that from the Academy analysis. So yeah, I mean, these are beautiful trades. This is a beautiful cycle trade, and there's nothing to really update on, because if you're not already in this from where the cycle completed, this is not like a trade for you, right? Because at this point, when you look at this, right, you really say, where can you even get in on this, right? A lot of people say, oh, well, you know what? When it comes back and it tests this support, I'll get in, right? Break, retest, take it higher. Okay, you could do that, but realistically, what are you going to do with your stop loss there? I mean, people are going to play a lower time frame. They're going to do something like this, where they enter in here, and who knows what happens, right? They put their stop loss besides some little like lower time frame wick that they create, and maybe they do kind of try to ride it out. But once the cycle completes, pullbacks get like more and more shallow. If you kind of see, this weekly candle has already opened up. Hold on. First off, yeah, never get in the middle of the ocean. That's a good way to put it. All right, entries on this are way gone. That's why taking a look at this for this week, Like, I'm doing nothing. I have no reason to close, because what reason do you have to close this trade, right? There's no resistance that's kind of pushed it down. There's no change of character. There's no high selling volume. There's nothing that we look for to be worried in a trade to close this. Even when it came up here, again, I told people in the inner circle, listen, if you want to book profits here, because by all means, capturing a move like this on the Nasdaq, which is, 500 points, that's a good move, right? That's a really good move. On a .01, that's like a $500 move. It's a really nice move. Um, just because you're taking liquidity, and yeah, it could come back down. That's how we manage money. But really, if you look at like the lower time frames, there was no substantial reason to close. So on Nasdaq, guys, very simply, I'm not doing anything with this week until this hits some sort of higher time frame level. Um, at this point, we have to look at like my targets, right? So let's just look at the daily chart. Let's kind of see, right, where would be like the next logical area for this thing to slow down, right? At a smart money concept, we're looking at like, yeah, potentially this order block. Now, some people know, why my faith in an order block like this is not that high, right? So I'm not looking at it like I normally would, which you can already see my line at the bottom here, right? The open of the candle, so to speak, right? That's not where I'm looking, right? I'm going to look for this thing to get wiped out, right? I'm looking for this thing to seek and destroy as much liquidity as it can this week into some of that like end of week news. Like maybe NFP disappoints the market, but the market like kind of hypes it up all week. Like, that's what my expectation is, because honestly, a lot of this rise here was due to what we had last week, which was like just really good retail numbers, right? But retail numbers kept coming out higher than expected. Even though unemployment's climbing and inflation's rising, people were actually still going out and spending more, which they basically have to because, again, they're spending more. So it kind of goes hand in hand. Like, people will think like, oh, this means that like they're actually spending more because they're buying more things. It's like, no, they're just spending more on the things they were already buying. So naturally, like, the numbers do rise. This is kind of how you get like what people call like dead cat bounces. Like, people calling this like a dead cat bounce, and it will be in the macro. It will be, and like we understand that, but there is logic behind why we entered the market. Again, the retail numbers kind of being better is driving this. So maybe this comes up all week long, and then maybe NFP is not as good, and or maybe it's even great. Maybe it's even, who even knows? It comes up and grabs this liquidity. I'm not gonna try to guess the reason. We don't ever look for the reason as much as we just look for the opportunity for there to be liquidity grabbed, right? I don't care if it's good or bad. I'm just looking for it to wipe all these late sellers, and I'm at no risk, right? Because I already paid myself, and I'm in from pricing that is what we call elite. How about volume? How about low volume on rising price? Yeah, that's what we call a dead cat bounce. But see, just because, so a lot of people are gonna look at this and they're gonna see what you're seeing, right? They're gonna see a break of structure here. Right? Let me get my mouse real quick. Right, people are gonna see this break of structure that we had. Right, people are gonna see this, and the volume traders, right? Especially the way that I teach, right? They're gonna look at this. They're gonna say, oh well, it's making a new high on lower effort, right? Which means that this isn't gonna be sustainable. Okay, right? You're completely valid. But until you get some sort of signal from those sellers, you can't commit to that idea, right? Because this can continue to rise just because there's nobody selling. It doesn't necessarily mean that you need more people buying, but if there's just less and less selling and there just remains equal amount of people buying, it's naturally going to rise, right? So you can rise on low volume. It's until sellers come in and until sellers start showing actual commitment and interest through structure and volume that you then commit back to that downside, right? So just because you're breaking a level on low volume doesn't mean it's like a proceed with caution. That means, again, like you said, you don't trade in the middle of the ocean, so like you're really not looking to enter up here, so you're not really concerned about the volume, right? Because where you entered, there was volume, right? Where I entered, there was volume. Look at the volume levels down there, right? Real demand came in, drove price, and that's why we're saying like now the people looking at this week that are like looking at this move, you trading into like the same idea that I am is going to be a lot harder. A lot harder. There's a lot more volume in the market. This thing is not giving you as tight of stop losses maybe as I had the opportunity of when, you know, things are working each other out. You can kind of get better spreads, get smaller candles, get better opportunity. So yeah, Nasdaq this week. If I were you guys, I would probably sit on the sidelines or again trade into the idea that these people that are short the market super late are going to continue to get liquidated. And then once we kind of push back up into this 13, because people, I don't know if you guys know, on Sunday I think I said what my TP was, but my TP has been 13,500. That's where we've been looking. At this point, I'll exit like 80% of my position, 90% of my position. I'll hold a little bit because the entry is so good that, you know, even if it does form a distribution cycle up here, you can use that open position as a way to hedge a little bit of risk. So it's like if you do take, you know, shorts, you can kind of match that position or use those floating profits as like a hedge. And then if you do take that loss, it's no problem because you kind of made some of that loss back. Right? There's a lot of stuff you can do with entries that nice. Right? We literally caught every single point that was available to the buy side last week. Like that's just like the weekly low is is our entry. Right? That's our entry. Right? Every point to the buy side. So we're heavily protected. But yeah, that's Nasdaq, guys. This cycle is going to continue. We're going to have to update this probably next Sunday when, you know, something new has played out on it. But shout out to those of you that are still holding. Taking a look at gold, you guys know we're actually bullish a lot of the market just in general. We're going to just zoom in here on some of the recent weekly action that's been going on. So gold never quite hits my expected new cycle zone. I've been short on gold since 19, like basically the retest in 2000. I had a lot of short entries up here that I held. Again, 90% of that position is closed. I am still holding, again, a little bit of hedge money that I can play with. And we kind of expected it to come back down into this, so I don't really have great buy entries on gold. We did take some positions last week, which are now up about 150 pips. But looking at this weekly chart, we talk a lot about, you know, strong candles like this that don't follow through, right? When you see a harsh candle like this, and there's a few other things happening, right? This down here, there's a daily order block. So you gotta understand when like this kind of move kind of capitulates into a another important high, because this is a weekly chart, so you kind of can't see it. But if you go down to the daily, all right, we can look at the order block that this played right into, right? The protected price action, and you could probably refine this down even further to find, you know, exactly where this wick hit. I'm sure if people care enough to refine it, you can. I don't care enough to refine it. It hitting that liquidity pocket is enough for me, especially on a weekly time frame. So when you kind of see this action, this is like pretty substantial stopping action, right? Because this momentum is pretty serious. It actually happened on some pretty decent sell volume. So what we do is like we kind of look to play the erase of this candle, right? We kind of bet that this candle is fully going to erase and that like the open of this candle is usually going to get retested. It doesn't mean we're going to break through it. A lot of times you kind of come up and kind of wick back down. That usually happens on the first candle. But we're looking for like slow and steady growth to erase this. And if that's the case here, then we might be looking at like a case of absorption where like, yeah, the market got like shocked in terms of like oversupplied, but the market's now absorbing it and kind of just slowly eating away at that supply until what there's a term that we use when it kind of like almost like consolidates to the upside, right? So kind of like when you look at like patterns like this, right? All these like kind of like reaccumulation patterns that kind of just squeeze against the same supply and eventually break back out to the upside. You call this like a compression cycle because price kind of like compresses against, you know, this wall until it builds up enough force to just smack right through. But it doesn't give you any sort of actual liquidity grab. It's just consistent demand against just what is trying to be an unstoppable force, right? Typically in a distribution, like if the buyers stay committed, then these guys will kind of usually let price move up because they can, you know, sell you more at a better price. But when they're staying that consistent, usually it forces it, and we call that compression, and then it pushes above. It's kind of what you're having here. We have this insane kind of like supply, and you kind of just eat away at this, and then kind of just push above. So that's what we're looking at on gold on like a macro time frame. Again, I would love for it to come back down to 1760, but after we printed this weekly candle, I'm just like, yeah, this just looks like consistent demand, like consistent rising accumulation. So, in terms of what we're doing already, my cat's gonna be annoying because he wants to come in. Yeah, I mean, compression is it's just a fancy word, right? You can, I mean, like what so listen, I've been doing Wyckoff trading and smart money trading for what's now like almost 6 years. So I know that this is like there's the textbook definition of this, whatever they call this, an ascending pennant or one or the other, right? I was never good at my shapes. I'll be real with you. When it came to that stuff, I didn't really care about any of that. For those of you that know my backstory in trading and like where a lot of my knowledge comes from, because it honestly, it doesn't come from this, like not the core logic of like supply and demand, but a lot of the chart stuff, obviously, you know, we learn from looking at this. But again, those shapes like were never a thing for me. I look at it in terms of supply and demand, right? I just know what it looks like in the back end of things. Uh, Gotta love the cats. Yeah, my cat. Yeah, he wants to come in here. He wants to go in the window, but yeah, he don't know. He makes so much noise. Is it too early to start talking about the DXY going to the 95? Listen, I don't look at the DXY. I couldn't even tell you what it's at. It's at 101. You want this to come to 95? 95. Um, well, when I look at something like this, and this is just market structure, right? This is just like forecasting market structure. When I look at like these reaccumulation cycles and these hard breaks, right? I envision like a pathway like this where this eventually gets wiped. The question just remains is like, okay, cool, you got like a little bit of a break of structure, you just have to get that double confirmation. And again, this is like what you would call a retail head and shoulder pattern, right? A retail head and shoulder pattern, or if you want to look it up, there's actually so every chart pattern that you know, there's a Wyckoff schematic for. If you look up a distribution schematic, I think it's 3 for the head and shoulders. It's the same thing, but this break of structure here, looking for like basically the inverted head and shoulders, and then just kind of like again the squeeze on supply zones until you wipe this reaccumulation. Yeah, that's kind of valid, but um, I would wanna get more information because this could very easily be like this could be a PSY, this could be a buying climax, and then what you're looking at is like PSY buying climax, selling climax, ARST, and then you get a reaccumulation and you just break out to the upside. Um, so I'd be careful of that too. All right, this is like it took way too early to like be making judgment calls on like 95. You only have one test to the top. Why don't I look at the dollar index? I believe it is irrelevant. As just my personal opinion, I don't think this tells you anything that you can't see on any other dollar pair. So look, this shows you a weak dollar. Okay, well we were just looking at gold. I mean, like, do you really need did you really need the dollar index to tell you that this was weak? That the dollar was weak? No, gold's also going up in the same time period. It doesn't lead. It's not like a leading indicator. It's just I don't believe in it. I don't yeah, I'm not a believer in it. But let's go over gold real quick on a 4-hour time frame. Because I want to give you guys a little bit of an update on why I kind of switched some of my bias on this. If you guys go and rewatch the episode 1 and you guys look at what we were like kind of looking for on here. We were expecting price to come and fill this wick, right? We were looking at it doing so from this, supply area. Again, this supply area, the stuff that I just erased, right? Expecting it to take these highs, stay under this wick, fall, grab liquidity here, and then continue higher. We played this a few times. We did play it here. We booked out like partials on this. It was a small kind of win. We missed the entries up here. I did try some stuff inside of here. Until the point we kind of just like formed this lower time frame range, and I just kind of started building on the idea that, all the other markets look strong. At this point, Nasdaq was running very strong, right? It was already pushing about 4-hour highs, and to be quite honest, the entire market's been moving the same. If you look at all these charts, everything's been moving the same, right? Everything's been together. So when I see Nasdaq moving like that, and I'm also bullish gold, and I see that gold hasn't moved, and I'm still kind of waiting on this demand zone, I start to build the idea that maybe that demand zone is not going to get hit, and we're actually accumulating now. So we did take entries inside of here. If you're in gold with me, let me know in the chat. If you guys are from the inner circle, from the academy, more importantly, I guess the inner circle. The academy guys might not be in this, but I know a few people were looking at it themselves. I don't know if Dom or anybody's on here. But yeah, we are bullish from here, and we're just going to continue riding this. Again, we kind of shifted. We're going to just see if we can come take this weekly liquidity. We're holding this at break even. Just very, very simple trade. Going forward this week, though, again, I remain skeptical about these lows. I do, still think that this is an area of interest. What I really am curious about what happens is what happens once we break above here, because I'm bullish, obviously, for a new high. So once we come up here, I'm going to be monitoring the volume, and it's going to be very important to me what happens up in this zone. So again, I'll be looking as price moves up into here, just at what some of the volume tells me, right? Do sellers begin to kind of come in this area? Do they begin to kind of increase? I mean, look at some of the other levels of sell pressure, right? If they come in with more, that's a good sign. But if the sellers start really kind of wearing out, I'm just going to remain holding my positions and see how far she wants to kind of liquidate on that weekly candle. So I think any kind of entry after she decides what she's going to do in here should be worthwhile. But she's running right now. Yes, I mean, listen, I've talked about that in the chats, right? We've talked about that in the chats where sometimes the Sunday open is like the best kind of pricing for the week. On the Nasdaq, that has been true so far, right? Wherever it opened at on the week was some of the best buying opportunity you had. Now again, that's risky, but momentum is very likely to continue, right? Like when shorts are getting squeezed like this, and that's basically what's happening, right? Every point this moves up is just somebody that's late short up in this area that has to cover, right? Just stop loss is getting rated. It's people getting kind of taken out. That's what we talked about after it broke this. Every point up into this inefficiency up here, all these late sellers that are just holding, hoping for lower, hoping for recession, hoping for all this bad news that they're not getting. All right, they're getting liquidated on that, and as we kind of break these highs, that momentum kind of just continues and continues and continues, right? And there's a lot of people, you better believe there's a lot of people that are just getting stopped out, just like trying to play these retracements, right? There's a reason why price moves so quick here. Like, look, right above this high, like there's a lot of people trading inside of here. Look how fast it moves out of the zone is because, again, there's people trading inside of this nonsense for just no reason when all they had to do was just look for the very obvious demand in the uptrend, and as long as that held, they could have just joined the market and continued. But there's just people that will fight the market for no reason, because they're just not aware. They're just not aware. So again, gold is this. We're just looking for that same thing, right? It's gonna just begin happening where, as this moves up more, right, a lot of these late shorts that are above these highs are going to get liquidated as we kind of continue that journey. We might even form out like a larger accumulation down here. All possibilities. Yep, no doubt. So GJ. GJ we have no interest in this week, I don't think. So again though, look at GJ and look at this compression, right? Just look at this very obvious like reaccumulation compression, right? Like look at all the dumb money that's probably sitting here with their trend lines. I mean, they probably have that drawn for whatever, however that line would help you at all. But again, this is just sitting here and building up tons of liquidity above these highs while just continuously creating bullish order flow. Now the thing here is, again, buying volume remains high at all these points. You know, look, heavy selling action. Look, heavy selling action. No break of structure. That's what we call absorption. But I could rant on about volume forever. I truly could. But the important thing is just the steady highs, the higher lows into them. 95% of the time that gets wiped, even if it's only for a moment, because they will come back to grab 4-hour buy-side liquidity. Quick question on how the month will close. Do you care for it at this point, or you just care for the new monthly open? To be honest with you, I haven't looked at monthly charts yet. I usually don't look until the month rolls over. Let me see if I can get a... Okay, so this is unfortunate because that doesn't give me enough data. Okay, that's better. Yeah, I mean, I don't really care for this too much. So like the only thing that this tells me right away is that like we know that the logic is like wicks fill, right? We love trading into wicks. Like we see this and we're not like bullish after this like to crazy. Now we might continue holding our buys because they might open the month, come up, back up into like some of this supply, and then we'll go short, and then it'll close the month, you know, further down. That's, you know, more or less the possibility as well. You know, just comes up, tests this. You know, a lot can happen in a month, right? You can like test up for an entire week, for another week to come down, and then there's a lot of time in a monthly candle to form the actual candle. But yeah, if we close like this, which we probably will, probably even close a little bullish maybe, you know, that would be like a pretty cool sign. But we'll expect this to fill in some capacity. I just think we kind of come up and seek and destroy some like additional supply. And then maybe the candle kind of closes back down, maybe it closes bullish, and then maybe the next candle goes and fills the wick. We don't have to immediately fill the wick. We can like play around for a while and then go down and fill the wick, which is probably the reality of what'll happen. But yeah, that's all stuff we explore like on the monthly rollover. You know, because it's like a new week, we kind of just look at the weekly. And when I look at the weekly, again, I see like everything we talked about last Sunday, where we're playing into the weekly order block, right? Now we're creating additional order blocks that are protecting our entry. And we're just looking for people to get squeezed, right? It's just literally that easy. We've broken this down a bunch of times. Another thing we're looking at this week, guys, is oil. Oil is very interesting to me, to be honest. I think oil... I want to be bearish oil so bad. That's just the truth. I do want to be bearish oil. The problem I have with that is like these weekly charts look so much more like a reaccumulation than they do anything else. And fundamentally, like this is kind of dangerous too. The daily charts speak a little bit of a different story. Okay. Right? The reason we want to maybe attempt a short on oil is just the supply blocks up here. My problem with this though is again like this is just the bullish order flow is just very obvious to me. The absorption is very obvious, and like asking this to come up and run 130 is not a crazy ask. It's just not. So like, I wish I could have volume on this chart. I don't know why the volume on this chart's being such a pain right now. Why is it right? Because we're looking at a bunch of things, right? There's like monthly order blocks up here that we've tested, but it's left a wick, and wicks fill. And as you guys can see, like this is again the same idea we're just looking at on gold there, whatever it was, or Nasdaq, right? Where it kind of leaves the wick, it sits there for a month, and then it comes up and it fills the wick. That's exactly what we're doing. This is just a reaccumulation cycle, right? People look at this and they see, oh, look at the wick. We're gonna sell. It has to sell. This is a reversal pattern. This is whatever this is called, a morning star doji, right? 3,000 thing. Who knows what they call this thing? But what's happening here is it's like literally reaccumulating to the point that anybody that's short in this range is just gonna get ran on. So it's kind of really unfortunate. I really do. A lot of people know that I'm kind of committed to this 120 sell because the daily chart does look good. And if the volume would load, you would see that we are making these highs on a lower volume. So the technical person in me is, I'll be real with you. If we form a distribution up here, you best believe I'm still taking an entry no matter what. But if we begin to trade into the higher portion of this order block, I might be looking at taking really low risk pullback buys and just seeing if it runs. So, yeah, that's what we're looking at oil. I know there's a few people in the academy again that were looking at the same sell setup that I'm looking at, and yeah, it's valid, but I like to fight my bias, right? Because that's been my bias since we've been back here. And like now I kind of just question myself. I'm like, damn, like why didn't we just catch any of these buys? Even if my bias was that I wanted to sell here, like why aren't we capitalizing on the fact that we knew it was gonna at least come back up to this level? So yeah, oil is kind of just a regret, honestly. So looking at it this week, again we're already clearing highs. There's just no real pullback for me to do anything here. All right. Let's see. We could take a look at. We are in Kryptos. We are very much bullish Kryptos. Let me get an ETH in the chat if you're in my ETH longs with me. Let me get an ETH in the chat if you are in these Ethereum longs with me. I'm curious if there's anybody that's still holding. You guys should be holding these. We tried 2 entries on Ethereum, so let's go. So yeah, this is actually running kind of crazy. If you have the inner circle entry on this, you are in from I have to go back in the Discord, but a lot of people are long from 725 to about 733. So we'll just call it 17. We'll see 1736. We are now running what is 1,300 points. ETH to 2,400 are way too much. Hey, we'll break this. We'll break this down. I'll just be real with you guys. I've started, because I'm not trading this week on my own accounts because I'm writing Nasdaq and gold. Right, I'm not pulling the trigger on anything. I already have my entries. My week is easy. My hands are washed. I'm sitting back. I'm chilling, honestly. But what I did do is, you guys know I like my challenges, right? I love my challenges. I've been trying to do a $3 challenge for a while. It hasn't been successful. I'll be real with you. I've probably lost close to like $100 just in $3 accounts. Like that's the type of degeneracy. Like how many times I've tried it, and I've had some decent success. Like I've gotten like the $3 up to like 25, 30, but then I get like hyper aggressive at 30, and I kind of like ruin it. Not even ruin it all the way down to like 0. It's like if I build it to 30 and I get it down to like 5, like I'm just like annoyed. Even though the 5 is more than the 3, like I'd rather just start back at 3. Right, so that's the type of stuff that I've been doing. That's kind of what I do when I'm, in my long-term stuff. I like to have fun. I like to prove to myself that like anything is possible in this, and not only to myself but to like you guys, right? Because like you can do crazy stuff when you have the skill set, right? You could take $3 to 100. You could take 30 to 1,000. You could do that. Is it easy? No. I'll tell you right now, it's like the hardest thing you'll ever do. Not on the technical level, but on the money management side, on the psychology side, it's definitely not easy. Um, but there are some people that like to consider them flip specialists, and I like to consider myself one of those people. So this is a $30 account that I'm trying. I'm gonna keep you guys updated all week, but I am in buys on this on my $30 accounts, and they're going pretty well. To be quite honest with you, I haven't checked since we had this 1 hour spike, but now we looking good. Um, Kyle, I have tried a $1 account. So the way you have to do that is you have to trade mini pairs. So you could trade like Nasdaq mini with 0.01 on a $1 account, and you can, you'll be up and down like, pennies. But if you capture like a 200 300 pip move, you'll make $2 3, and then from those $3 you have to make 7 8 and 9 10. Then you have a little bit more equity and you get to play. The way I do it is I scale in, right? Trading small accounts will teach you how to master scaling in. If you think I'm just in one position on this, you're wrong. That's not how you grow a $30 account. You're never gonna grow a $30 account to 1,000 by, taking one position on this. And I mean, you could. It would just take you a lot longer than, the way that I do it. My best so far is 60 to 3K. Yeah, my best so far is 150 to just over 10K in 3 days. Well, yeah, it's like the entire week. Let's just call it a week. Call it 5 days. Call it 5 days. Do I recommend brokers? I do not recommend brokers. I will tell you the truth about brokers. You guys want the truth about brokers? All right, drop truth in the chat if you guys want the truth about, what these best brokers and all this other stuff that YouTubers kind of tell you guys. Because I always keep it real with you. If you on here, there's one thing I'll always be. It's 100% real. So if you want the truth on that, you let me know in the chat, and I will. Just don't get mad at me. Just don't get mad at me. I'm just relaying the message. All right. All right. You guys want the truth? All right. So listen. 99% of those brokers are all the same. They're white labeled. You can go buy one yourself. If you got like 30K and a dream, you can go open up a brokerage. They're all white label. There's no such thing as like the best. The only thing these guys compete on is spread, which is usually temporary based on how new they are. The newer they are, the smaller the spread. The older they are, the more average the spread is. I'm not going to say they like raise it past market expectations, right? They all kind of have that base level spread. They're all owned by like a few groups of the same people. So for those of you that use things like Prosperity, KOT, Hugo's Way, Ego FX, CoinX, all these other nonsense. A lot of them, the same individual owns like 2-3 of them. I know people that own brokers. It is what it is. They're all trash. They're all the same thing. They're all the same liquidity provider. The only thing they can offer you is the price that you pay per contract or per standard lot, right? The commission rate. So yeah, it's all garbage. It doesn't matter, bro. No matter what anybody tells you, on YouTube, right? If somebody is telling you to use a broker, I'm telling you right now, 95% of the time they're getting paid to tell you that. Right? And anybody can get an affiliate link, right? I can go I have a bill. Like if you want, I'll recommend you a broker. I got you. I could sling you like 9 different links right now, like no cap. Like, do I do it? Yeah, I listen. I have affiliate links for everything. If you really want to know and you're really in my DMs and you're like, yo, what broker do you use? I'm gonna send you an affiliate link. But I'm telling you right now, you don't need that. You don't need that. All that does is line my pocket. It doesn't help you at all. But if you want to be supportive, right? Some people do that just to be supportive, right? If you want to support a creator, yeah, all right, cool. Maybe sign up for their affiliate link and just know that they're gonna get paid off all the trading that you do, whether you win or you lose. They get a portion of the commission. I'll be real with you, it's good money. It's good money slinging brokers. So that's why there's always like a million of them, and that's always why they cycle out, right? That's always why there's a new one. It's always why there's a new one. Oh, check out this new broker. Check out this new broker. Yeah, because they're trying to get just that. That's what it is, man. Brokers are a dirty game. Your broker is not your friend. They're gonna do nothing for you. That's it. Just hope that they pay you out. Just make sure that they pay you out, and that's that. I'll tell you right now, if a broker ever gives you any issues about payouts, that's it. Take your money if you can get it at that point, because usually at that point, that's already enough red flags that you may not be getting it. But if you have any issues at all, out of there, right? These brokers are a dime a dozen. Like, if I put up with no bullshit, I've used like 30 different brokers. I put up with no bullshit. My trades get slipped, right? Some weird market condition happens. Like, I'm the first person on the chat. I'm like, nah, this is nope. Anytime, like I'm telling you guys, anytime the market is down, like you're getting like off quotes, I swipe down, I hit that screen record button, and I go back and I document the issue. This way, if I lose any money or like I can't close my trade or something crazy, even if I want to close it out in profit, like they might be like, oh well, it's still like, nah, bro, like I wanted to close. Like here's me pushing the button, like. So that's just some truth about brokers. It's all a game. It's all a game. I'm not here for the broker commission money. I'll be real with you guys. But I can definitely slide you one. Yeah, they all suck. They all suck. So what about the regulated ones in the USA? All right. I'll be real with you. I've tried Owanda or Owende, however you pronounce them, which is a regulated broker for the US. I've tried them like I've been trading for 7 years. Probably was like 7 years ago, so like 6, 7 years ago. In regards to them, they're cool and all, but there's a few things about regulated brokers that I do not like, and so there's a few rules, right? There's the Fifo rule, which if you don't know what Fifo is, it's first in, first out, meaning if you take two positions, right? You take a buy on Ethereum here, right? You enter that position, you enter again on a pullback. Also, you have a second position, and now let's say you're just like greedy and you're like, man, I'm gonna add to it right here because it's just gonna fly, which would be a really emotional decision, but whatever, right? This starts to pull back, and you're like, oh man, I want to close this position, right? You can't close this because it's first in, first out, meaning you have to close this and this before you can exit your shitty position. And because of that, it makes scaling in a pain in the ass. Because any scale in that you take, you are extra committed to if you really want to swing it. So if this does like pull back and form some sort of creative structure, this is just hurting you and hurting you and hurting you. And because of stupid rules like that, is why I don't use those kind of brokers. If there's a FIFO rule, you do not have me. And I hope it gets changed at some point. But yeah, that is why I don't use them. The leverage being 1 to 50, I would prefer like 1 to 100 at least. And I could trade on a funded account at 1 to 100 with much more capital. So, and very little risk to my side. So there'd just be no reason for me to use a regulated broker over a prop firm. King or Hugo, who cares? Whichever one you want. Makes no difference. Any pair requests? Any last minute pair requests? Anybody want to pair request? Y'all let me know. Yeah, this $30 account's up at 182 right now. Let me see if we can get the MyFX book up. Because full disclaimer, I did overexpose my account, and I had to close scale and entries, right? I kind of like traced this high. I had entries up here, and when it pulled back, there's only $30 in the account. I can't really experience drawdown, so we kind of had to hop out of there. So we are like technically down $50, but or not 50. I'm sorry, $15, but this is probably not up to date. Yeah, this is trash. May as well just pay this small monthly fee that they keep talking about. What's this thing? It's gotta be like $7 probably. Bitcoin. People want Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin's the same as Ethereum. We're just bullish, right? We're just. I mean, we actually also talked about this. I don't know if it was on Sunday or Wednesday, but if you go back, we definitely talked about how like, and I actually took an L on this, which is fine because Ethereum is making up for it. But and we took an L on Ethereum to be, I mean, fully transparent. We talked about like this order block within here, right after all this kind of pent up like just multi-week liquidity that was sitting here, and it didn't, again, exactly as we said, it couldn't break any sort of the supply here. Dwindles down into the OB, right, into where all that dumb money exchanges into the smart money, right, comes down for the test. So basically you have PSY. It's going to mark this out for my wake off people. Selling climax, ARST, right? Then we enter into phase B, which we know is what? Noisy. Right, it's a bunch of phase B nonsense. Yeah, if you wanted to, you can mark out the STs here, right? The equal lows, that build up a liquidity. But as you kind of get more advanced, you kind of just see it. You don't really care. You mark out your entry area, which is exactly what we did. All right, came down, spring, so you got your phase C, plus you got your test to that spring, kind of like the Nasdaq did, and then now you're just getting these breakouts. And again, we talked about, this is going to come up and it's going to squeeze all these late sellers, right? It's going to just do this little shorter term accumulation, and it's going to come back up and push up into the 36K, 34K areas, right? We're ultimately looking, for possibly upwards of 37, but we're going to monitor what it does up at like 34, right? Very, very, very simple accumulation. You should be buy side this all week, right? Probably even for like the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? This is easy. For those of you, again, that are in the inner circle, you guys got the exact entries on Ethereum, right? We took a few different things on Ethereum just to kind of break down the loss that we took on Ethereum, right? What we were looking at here is I was looking at, let me delete a lot of this other nonsense here. Right, these are just very, very obvious accumulations that are now just starting to show some demand. So for this, I mean, it was a little bit different. We were looking for the wick fill below here, which we never quite got. We're actually kind of like forming perfect equal lows, which is fine because we talk about how equal lows form. You could still play the reaction before the liquidation. But this did kind of play down, and it formed some interesting structure on like the 1 hour, and even like on the 15 minutes. So typically when we're looking at like a zone like this, we play like the first lower time frame break of structure. So like we got in the lower time frame like a structure shift, a reaccumulation. We started kind of looking pretty bullish, so we looked for like reasons to go long on that, which was like, and that's all within inside of here. So we were looking for reasons based off of that to like play off this 1 hour structure. Right, and we had taken positions, and again, like we entered off that one candle that tested there. Actually, we like ran our like stops to here. And again, we were looking forward to maybe finally move out of the range based off of that idea. Didn't come into fruition, which is fine. We actually ended up cutting those losses a little bit earlier before it actually hit the stop loss. Right, so I was out for like 0.3% risk. It was like no big deal. And then we re-entered this idea because eventually the market, again, created more liquidity, spiked it, created the perfect equal lows, and then, again, started breaking structure. I mean, we entered right after I saw this kind of sweep these lows. I was like, all right, we're taking this one more time. Like it formed that candle, and I was like, all right, cool, we're entering with inside of here, and our stop loss is right below here. So this is our setup as of right now. Right, and we've been kind of riding this out. So we called this on Ethereum, but again, this is the same idea. Now off the 4 hour, right? We have our entries. We can go risk-free on that, and we have not, well, I have not anyway, partialed out on my main position. My $30 accounts in the reaccumulation here, and we're gonna look for that move up into I mean the 2000 zone is like obvious. Like this is obvious to me. Like this is very obvious that we're gonna take this. I would be surprised if we don't take this, to be quite honest. This is like the only area even if it was going to sell off, it would probably create the cycle within this liquidity pocket. So I'd be surprised if we don't take this. But we're looking, again, upwards of like 2,400, maybe even 2,600. I mean, on the daily, this really has some room. Again, it's not going to be like a straight shot, but it'll, you know, create its cycles and then eventually top out and create some more downside. And then, you know, we'll look further from there, right? You can only go, you only want to go so far on a certain time frame. I don't want to sit here and draw like 9 months of price action, right? I'd go to the weekly or the monthly to do that, which we have, and it does the same idea, right? Pulling back up into this 2,600 area. So yeah, Ethereum, Bitcoin, we're very bullish these. I'm bullish these all week. Right, that doesn't mean every entry that you guys are going to take is going to be profitable. Right, I can't, you know, control how you guys enter the market and where you take your positions. If you want, you know, where we take our positions and you want to get those exact levels, then you guys can get into the inner circle, and that could be, you know, what you do. You could be in at the lows from us and chilling all week. Otherwise, you guys got the plan, or you have the bias, right? The bias is the bias, though. How you position and play and get yourself in that market, right? That's a good game you're gonna have to pick up on the little context clues for. Kyle wants GU. Man, that's how GU opened. GU opened 64 pips down. Sheesh. Sheesh. Alright, let's see. Take a look at GU. So, we were obviously already looking at stuff on GU here. On the weekly. So, again, this did form like weekly, technically weekly early order block structure. We call this early order block structure because, yeah, it could be a potential OB, but because there's no like wide cycle, no clear liquidity grab, it's not something that we're like particularly looking at as terms on like a weekly. We'll play it maybe short term, but it's, you know, again, early cycle order block. Let's just know maybe this is like a selling climax, potential PSY in an early weekly cycle. So that's cool. Always trading off of that. Let's see. Daily supply has been taken. Right, lots of price inefficiency. So question here. Squeeze shorts. Right, looking for max pain. Right, max pain in the market. So a bunch of people that are probably short within here, very smooth price action. Right, the question is like, do we remain sustainable above this level? Looking at this chart, we also look for like areas of buy side liquidity. Right, so like under that area is like interesting, but we'll have to break that down to a 4-hour. Yeah, so we want to just be careful looking at volume decreasing overall as the range is kind of creating that bullish order flow, right? Divergence. Again, until selling volume overtakes buying volume, we will remain to the buy side. But these might be limited on their moves up. So if this was going to be limiting, this is an interesting area to look at. Like GU to come take this. And only after it does, maybe you could look at like something like that. Which also kind of like connects with gold, like we're expecting it to kind of like continue early week and then fall into some of the NFP. Same thing on the Nasdaq, right? Playing up into liquidity. This might be pretty easy for your GU to grab, honestly, though. So GU could absolutely kind of erase all of this inefficiency this week. But the idea is like more or less about the sell, because the sell would require a few things in the lower time frame. But playing up into this liquidity seems very obvious to me. Let's just drop to the lower time frames real quick and kind of assess. Yeah, see, there's just no selling action in this range. So even though, yeah, you're creating areas of resistance, it's very likely to break out. That doesn't mean that this move is going to be sustainable, because it might not be, but people that are prematurely shorting this into especially into tomorrow, right? Because tomorrow's Memorial Day, so this is probably gonna do some like nonsense where like it does fade off, and like these shorts get like a lot of confidence, but then come like Tuesday market, it's probably just gonna it's probably just gonna laugh at all these people and liquidate them. So I would be careful. This guy's a scam ICT wannabe poser. Hides his. Okay, first off, I've never learned from ICT. ICT is in the market. ICT does teach smart money concepts, absolutely. We approach this more from a Wyckofian standpoint than we do an ICT standpoint. I don't know why you would call me an ICT one. I don't claim to be following logic that ICT follows. These what you think is the godfather of all this information is not the godfather of all this information. If you think the ICT is the creator of all this stuff, I implore you to look into people like Richard Wyckoff. I implore you to look into people like Jesse Livermore. I implore you to look at like some of the OGs that lived in like the 1920s, 1930s, 1940s that set the foundation for explaining major market and supply and demand moves. So you're more than welcome to look up ICT. He teaches a lot of great stuff. He has his own form of the logic. That's like the market maker method. It's very similar, right? Trading into order blocks, trading into certain times of the day, right? It's all very similar stuff. But I will not entertain the people that think he's like the god of everything. He's a very big cult-like following. It's cool. I mean, like, shout out to him. Like, he gets his flowers where he's due. Like, his stuff works. Like, there's so many smart money traders that I could sit here and recommend you. But we approach this from a Wyckofian standpoint. We follow that kind of logic. We follow the three laws of the market. We don't. I don't teach ICT concepts in. To be honest with you, I haven't even looked into ITT stuff probably in like 4.5, 5 years. So I don't really know what he's teaching these days. And again, a lot of these words, quote unquote, they coin, right? Things like imbalance, inefficiency, right? Order block. People think these words are, somehow owned, trademarked, and patented. It's just, these people are laughable though. You should do less like these. I love these people. Again, so you can search him on YouTube. Inner Circle Trader. He's got a ton of great content, very similar. It's based in that core supply and demand logic. You can't. Ain't nobody sitting here saying. No. There's no point of even removing the trolls. Like, I welcome the debate. Honestly, like I think a combination of all this stuff is great. Like, it's only been good for the space. But I mean, to each their own. These are the people. See, again, like this is why we talk about like execution. Like, this is all I care about, bro. I care about the execution in my account. I care about the stuff that I do. I never concern myself with other traders. That shit's so funny. Unless you Kyle or like Abel. I mean, like, there's the people that want me to be critical of their shit. You block foot? Nah, I don't. Listen, I welcome the debate. No reason to block people. To be honest, I thought he would be. I mean, like, listen, if you well versed in ICT and you want to come on here and show this from an ICT standpoint, I'll even we'll get on a Zoom. You could do some teaching, but it is what it is, my guy. But again, that's what we're looking for this week. Again, we're just waiting for the reaccumulations to finish out. Waiting for those UTADs, some sort of sell volume to come in. Again, if you're not already in GU, I don't know where you're trading at, right? Because there's no clear cycle here to be trading in, right? Quite just yet. If one develops, and you can trade with inside of here. But I'm just not looking to trade this late, right? We talked about this last week. We talked about how the cycles were all playing out last week, right? My week is easy. Kyle and Abel bring the sauce as well. Yeah, Kyle. Hey, listen, if you're not subbed to Kyle and Abel too, I highly recommend that you go do. Sub to them before you sub to me. Do me that favor. All right. Anything else? Any final thoughts? Final thoughts. I know this was a late stream. Usually we do this stream at 8:30, so I don't want to take up too much time tonight. Hey man, listen, like I try to push the button once or twice a week if possible. Right? I will push the button, 3, 4, or 5 times, assuming that, again, we're within risk parameters. So on a setup, I'll risk anywhere up to like 1.5%. So I'll usually take 3 attempts at 0.5% each time. And then again, targeting these high risk to reward setups. I mean, these are, again, 1 to 25s. Like, you don't have to sit here and risk 2% to get amazing returns. So yeah, listen, like when you can ride out it, when you can identify the cycles and you can ride out the cycles in full, then yeah, life can get pretty easy. We're enjoying it. I'm gonna just tab over to Ethereum. Yeah, we should maybe take a little bit off the table here. Yeah, if you guys are in this trade, shout out to my inner circle people. And if that's also what you meant by biting off, I never noticed that too. I forgot ICT had the whole inner circle trader thing. We might need a little rebrand. I definitely didn't catch that. Can I go over GJ one more time? Do you want a time frame? Let's look at the time frame you want me to look at. Right, what are you looking at this on? Right, what time frame are you most interested in? We'll take a look at that. Can I do a video about the volume indicator? Yeah, I mean, yeah, I could put a basic video together. I got you on that. On the 30-minute, okay. 30 minutes not typically one I use, but it's not gonna really matter. It's basically just a glorified 15-minute. Oh, you want the 4? Okay, hold on. 4 hour 161 level. Oh, okay. So what do you? Let me delete all my zones. I'm gonna look at this through your eyes. Very specifically, the 161 level. I mean, yeah, this is more or less what we just talked about, right? Where you get this consistent supply area with your just rising lows. I mean, this is just textbook are gonna get liquidated to the buy side. Right, we're already expecting that. We talked about that. There's a few areas of interest. I mean, honestly, the area of interest for me in a cycle like this is always going to remain above just the next major 4-hour high. So it's either that, or I would even just use this. More importantly, that entire money pocket, though. Again, I'm not trading in that zone. I'm just using that as an area where I know price is going to be very likely to be attracted to. Again, just based off the premise that you do have reaccumulation type structure here. Right, buying climax, selling climax, ARST, you're still playing within, phase B. Maybe we spike a little lower and come up and grab liquidity. But looking at that as a buy target is great, but on that 4-hour chart, like, there's no clear entry. Like, you want to, like, really look at some of this action. And, like, annoyingly enough, like, a lot of this range, is just very choppy, very ugly. And we only expect this to get kind of worse with Memorial Day kind of coming up. So honestly, I would be like most interested in is just like all of this noise kind of getting liquidated, because this is just the type of like no clear kind of nonsense, just choppiness that I don't want to play in. I want to kind of just see what happens back down at these lows, right? I mean, you can look in at this area, but we talk about like these areas here too, like. A lot of people play these order blocks and they play it like it's taught, right? They'll either just enter at the top, and yeah, we do that too. We begin to scale in, right? Because that's what the logic calls for on a grand scale, right? Some people use the 50%, right? You guys also know that I talk about and teach the liquidation of the order block, because smart money concept stop lines happen all the time, right? It's just liquidity in the market. There's no people talk about it from like a pre-programmed sense, but volume and extra liquidity can always be grabbed, right? It's always a possibility, right? We just play off what we see, and that's why we use volume as a big part of our indication, because that effort is, again, giving us that best probability of being right with the market, especially on lower time frames like the 5 minute, when we get those change of characters that have the volume supporting it in a higher time frame zone. It looks good. So I would probably just look for this again to kind of come down, and then what happens down here is going to be very important, but we'll look for like lower time frame structure like that. And this is just like, honestly, this is like 95% of my setups. Like, this is literally 95% of my setups. It's just like it moves down into a zone of demand, right? The sell volume is incredibly low. You get that low time frame change of character, right? The break above this. This move, very importantly, has to have a spike in buy volume, because the break of structure has to mean something. There has to be actual effort behind that. This next move has to be lower sell effort, and then we trade into whatever 5 minute order block is down in this area, and then we take it to the buy side. It's just what we do every time. It's just, I mean, and it's hard. So, I mean, like, I can show it at such a basic level like that, but I know it's not. I know it's not easy in the moment. I know it's not. It comes with just practice and practice and practice and identifying stuff in real time. I don't know why I can't drag my chart. Trading view, what's good? Trading view was good. Trading view broke. What's going on with this? But yeah, that's, I mean, listen, trading view doesn't want us to be great. It's okay. You might get a pullback. Short-term pull, I mean, I think you're more likely to get the pullback later in the week. You just had, these are gonna do this. These are gonna, it's very short, very small little pullbacks. Look, you wanna know? Here, I'll give you, look, I'm gonna drop one last thing for you guys. Let me just make sure they both, the highest, your highest probability, in my opinion, based off current charts, right? Like, and again, who knows what data is going to look like at this point, right? Who knows what the volume is going to look like? But based off these charts, the immediate spot that I would be looking is, again, in this lone candle here and in this lone candle here. These would be like the areas that I would look for. I would look for spikes below these areas, and then once we, again, then form the stuff that I want to see in the lower time frames, then I would get in and take it. But this is the area that I would look at, right? But again, like, there's just not enough data here to justify if it's going to do that. I mean, you could look down at the 1 minute, you could try to refine it, but that's that. So listen, family, with that being said, I appreciate y'all. Inner Circle family, y'all know we're going to be chilling all week long in our positions. So if you guys notice that it's a light week, that's going to be why. To the rest of you, I will see you guys on Wednesday. I love and appreciate you guys for hanging out tonight. Sorry about the late stream, but we will